Well, I was sloppy as hell this morning. I have one day to visit Knott's Berry Farm, and here I am like an amateur getting here 40 minutes after the park has opened. We're gonna see how many rides we can get done. I only got about 4 or 5 hours here, so let's get it. All right, so I had a problem trying to check in. They were scanning my pass. They're like, your pass says you're cool, but also you're not cool. No one could really figure out what that meant. Had to call on the manager, had to call on the manager's manager. They figured it out eventually, and so props to them for handling it as quickly as they could. It's weird, it seems like no one's ever encountered this issue before, but I'm in, I got the fast lane. So now, officially, let's get it. First impression of Ghost Rider is that I think I need to learn to stop saying I wasn't expecting that wooden coaster to go so fast. That thing went hella fast. I was sitting right in the middle. It was also much longer than I was expecting it to be, which was a nice treat. And I didn't think it was too rough, although the young ladies behind me were definitely complaining about how bumpy it was when we were sitting back at the station. In fact, they called it outrageous. So your mileage may vary, but I personally found it to be a relatively comfortable ride. Also, I have to say that one of the things I'm most impressed with so far is that the employees here have all been fantastic, and they seem to run a very tight ship. I have been just so accustomed to the Six Flags model of anything goes, just complete chaos and anarchy up on the platforms. And here so far, at least at Ghost Rider, they had an air traffic controller telling people where to go. They had multiple employees that were buckling people in, clicking the seats. They had an employee that was there for the little cubbies where you could drop off your bags, sliding a thing back and forth depending on which car you were in. It all ran extremely efficiently, and although it looked like there was quite a bit of a wait for those who were in the standby line, I was able to get on almost immediately and had a great ride. So far, Ghost Rider, #1 ride of the park because it's the only ride I've done so far. Real quick, if you are new to my channel and wondering what is up with this thing, let me illuminate what's going on here. I have challenged myself to ride 200 roller coasters in one calendar year. The calendar year in question, 2024. Now, I did an entire year of visiting theme parks. I documented the whole thing. Originally, I was planning on editing it as I was going and releasing weekly during the whole process, but you know, life was lifing. I couldn't find the time to get all the damn editing done, but now, here we are. It's 2025, I'm finally getting my act together and I am releasing these videos. The reason I explain all of this is because it might be a little confusing seeing all of this footage shot a year ago by naive, young, wannabe coaster nerd Andy combined with my present day commentary of wizened, old sage coaster enthusiast Andy. But now that you know what's up, let's get back to the park. Just did hang time. I had to do it front and back just to get the feel for it. It was a fun time. It was a lot slower than I was expecting, but that enabled you to get that actual hang time. There's a lot of inverted time, upside down, you're hanging upside down a little bit. It's fun that at that top drop, they actually kind of show you the drop and then pause you there for a little bit. But I wish they would just let you go so you could get a lot more speed on that thing. So I definitely think that the backseat is way better for that first drop for that reason. But definitely a fun coaster. Definitely a mid-tier one for me, but I had a good time. I would ride it again for sure. Unfortunately, I did not fit on Coast Rider, but when I realized it was a wild mouse, I wasn't too sad about it. Accelerator, yeah, I didn't know what I was getting into as I walked up there until I started to see how the cars were launching. It's just like a full launch from the start. It is terrifying as it's happening. You just keep going faster and faster. Then you come up to that big top hat, nice big drop there. I was in the last row. I thought that was thrilling. I would love to try it again in the front row at some point, but super long wait for that. And I got rides to ride. But man, yeah, this one I think this one made it to the top of the park thus far. It's like everything I want. It's like everything I want out of an experience. I can't stop smiling. It was great. I know a lot of y'all probably found me from my Top Thrill 2 review, and Accelerator is actually the very first of this genre of coaster that I ever rode. Its stats seem pretty minor compared to Top Thrill 2 or King to Ka. It's only 200 feet tall. It's half the height of those coasters, but that first ride still knocked my socks off. You start right off the bat with this hydraulic launch, and apparently it goes 0 to 82 in 2.3 seconds. I know parks have been known to inflate their stats, but whatever's going on there, it's absolutely terrifying. I often look at riding coasters as an exercise in handing over control to the universe. Yeah, you make the decision to get in the line, but once you're in that seat and those restraints are closed, you're just along for the ride, and whatever is gonna happen is gonna happen. As someone who runs my own business, I make a lot of content, do a lot of creative work. My day-to-day life is full of decision-making, and it's often really exhausting and mentally taxing. So for those few minutes from when I leave the station to when I get back and I am just along for the ride, it is typically one of the most freeing feelings that I feel in my life. But that launch, those 2.3 seconds when you are out of control, it doesn't invoke a feeling of freedom. It invokes this primal fear. Something deep inside me is screaming, you should not be doing this. This isn't right. How do we get out of this situation? Now, you may be tempted to chalk that feeling of terror up to this simply being my first time experiencing such a powerful launch. But I did get back to Knott's earlier this year. I got a front row ride on Accelerator, and yup, still scary as hell. And I actually love that something could still make me feel that way. That being said, a lot of my critiques of this coaster are pretty similar to what I've said about Top Thrill 2 and will say about King to Ka, mainly in that it just feels too short. It doesn't feel like a complete experience. What it does offer is incredible. I just want more of it. So my question to you, for all of you much more experienced coaster enthusiasts out there, is there a coaster that provides that extremely powerful, terrifying, scary launch, but then also offers a really compelling layout afterwards? Let me know. Well, I know it's not a coaster, but I obviously can't ignore a good drop tower, and it was pretty good here. You know, not my favorite, definitely not the tallest. It does a lot of kind of bouncing up and down at the end. Someone that rode before me threw up, so they had to do some cleaning up, and as I was coming down, it kept kind of bouncing and getting, you know, less and less bouncy, but I could easily see that making someone motion sick, so buyer beware. But I had a good time. I would certainly do it again. Well, I just rode Jaguar and lost my hat. The front row within the first like 15 seconds of the ride. Of course, it just flew right off, so hat was gone. Thankfully, the person behind me caught it. crisis averted, everything is fine, the Bucky's Hat lives on. Fun little ride. It's a nice, long, kind of meandering coaster. It's a good time. Well, that part doesn't even like touch your body. Like it's like, and for me, that's very rare. It's like 6, 7, 8 inches above your body. You're just wearing a seatbelt. It's pretty loosey-goosey, but it's a fun time. Would I opt to ride it again? Wouldn't be a top priority, but if I had time and a friend wanted to, why not? But yeah, Jaguar, check that one off the list. It was fun enough time. Just did Sierra Sidewinder. This is my first time ever doing a coaster like that where the whole car is sort of seemingly free, spinning at the whims of gravity. Whatever it's gonna do while you're riding, it's gonna do. It was definitely fun, but I think it may have triggered just a little teensy bit of the motion sickness in me, so I will not be riding that one again, but it was a nice change of pace. It's a very smooth ride. I can imagine this ride being really fun if you had like a whole bunch of friends on it, filling up multiple cars, because as you're spinning around, you're looking at your friends and reacting to them and having a good time. If you are like me and you are a single rider by yourself, you are treated to awkward eye contact with strangers throughout the course of the ride. So if that's your thing, sign up for this one. If not, maybe skip it. But I had a good time. We just did Silver Bullet. I'm sure I am not the first person to point out that it's a little weird that this ride is in fact not painted silver, but overall a very fun ride, a very thrilling ride, a little gentler than I was expecting, a little slower than I was expecting, but I loved all of the corkscrews, loved all those moments when all you can see is just the wide open sky, loved when it swept down really close to the water. You could really feel the pressure on your body at that point. It's a thrilling time, definitely in, I would say, the upper third of the rides that I've ridden here at Knott's Berry Farm today, and I would certainly ride this one again. That's a wrap on Knott's Berry Farm, my first visit ever. I had a good time. I don't regret spending 4 hours here. Definitely not the most thrilling rides, although Accelerator is probably going to be in my upper tier of coasters for at least a little while. Had a great time with that, tried to go back, but the line was just too long even with the Flash Pass. That is not a very efficiently run ride. Now, only having 4 hours in this park certainly left me feeling very rushed, and I didn't get to look at all the details and meander as much as I typically would. I definitely did not get nearly as much footage as I would have preferred, and I just feel like I really need to spend more time here before I can give this park a fair shake of an assessment. But as it stands, I would say that I like but don't love Knott's. What I did like about Knott's is that they have a much stronger emphasis on theming than any of the other parks that I've been to so far. And of course, I'm not expecting them to be Disney or Universal, but I do think they did overall a pretty solid job of creating a few distinct areas or lands with enough visual flourishes to elevate this above your standard amusement park. But still, each of the areas was just that, standard. And even this early on in the challenge, I feel like I'm just seeing the same themes repeated over and over and over again. I understand that the average person is not going to nearly as many parks as I am in a single year, and maybe these are the themes that the general public likes. But for me, it still leaves me yearning for something more interesting, something more unique and creative. Also, bonus points for the fact that at least it appeared on the surface that the workers there hated their lives significantly less than the average Six Flags employee that I have encountered. So that's always nice to see. But what I think is really holding Knott's back, and what for me kind of relegates them to a mid-tier park, is that it doesn't seem like they really have that big headlining attraction, that elite tier coaster that anchors the entire park. It doesn't even need to be a coaster. It could just be a really cool dark ride. And yes, I loved Accelerator, but it's such a short ride with such terrible ride ops that it really feels much more like a solid supporting coaster rather than the star of the show. And I feel kind of the same way about my other favorites in the park, Hang Time, Ghost Rider. So while I enjoyed my time here, I'm not really feeling particularly compelled to visit again in the immediate future, aside from the fact that I, of course, still have a couple more credits that I need to claim here. That is because, sadly, Pony Express was closed the entire time that I was there. It looks like a pretty unique ride vehicle, at least, so I'm bummed I didn't get on it. Did not fit on Coast Rider, so all of that means that I claimed a total of 6 more credits at this park, bringing my grand total up to, which is respectable, but of course I have a lot more work to do if I'm going to hit that 200 coaster credits before the end of the year. Thankfully, next up is Carowinds, located on the border of North and South Carolina. This park has a staggering 15 coasters to ride, and if you want to see if I could get on all of them and what I thought of them, make sure you check out this video right here.